Welcome, everyone. We appreciate everyone joining us today. I'm Sarah McKay with TriMin Systems, and we're excited to partner with SourceDay for today's webinar. At TriMin, we work closely with Infor XA manufacturers focused on improving operational efficiency and strengthening supply chain visibility. One of the biggest challenges we consistently hear is the amount of time teams spend chasing supplier updates across emails, spreadsheets, and manual follow-ups. Today, SourceDay will show how manufacturers are extending Infor XA to gain real-time visibility into supplier commitments, reduce late orders, production disruptions, and create a single source of the truth for supplier communication. And with that, I'll hand things over to you, Clint.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Loring. Appreciate that. Welcome, TriMin customers, as well as larger Work Out Loud community. Appreciate you guys joining us here today. My name is Clint McCree. I'm going to walk you guys through a little bit of background on who is SourceDay, where we fit, and why you might want to be talking to us. And joining me with the guitars in the background is Darren. And he said, look, if my presentation is boring, he's just going to play some guitar for us. So we should all be good. Should be entertaining either way. But anyways, he's going to help me answer any questions you guys have and probably tell me, hop in here and help me with the presentation along the way. So excited to be here. We really haven't presented much to the TriMin customers. I probably have met many of you over the years, either at Empower. Thank you.
Empower
event. Sorry. Yeah, so we go to the Empower event the last 3 or 4 years. I probably met many of you there. So generally speaking, I'm the one with Darren walking around in the green sport coat. So if that resonates you, it probably you probably have met us there. Most people don't recognize Darren and I if we're not wearing our green sport coats. So here you go. So this is what we look like when we're not wearing the green. But excited to walk you guys through the background of SourceDay, where we live, and maybe how we can help your business. For most customers today, and really going back since 2020, supply chains and volatility have really been at an all-time high in terms of volatility. It goes back to even before COVID, but certainly since we've had COVID, there's just been one event after another that's led to a lot of volatility. And probably most of you have felt that over the last couple of years. And it's been very difficult to predict your supply chain, predict your parts supplies, work with suppliers when all this chaos is happening. And we keep thinking that if we could just turn the corner on this and turn the corner on that things will get better. But what we're showing in our data, because we actually have this really unique data set of millions of purchase orders that flow in and out of SourceDay, and we'll get into more about what that means later. We have a SourceDay volatility index. And what we're starting to see, and you can see here on the right-hand side, is volatility of supply chains is actually starting to creep back up to what we were seeing a few years ago. And when you're dealing with volatility, certainly for the buying side of your business and your supply side of your business, that often means tons of change. And things that are in that change can create lots of chaos in your business. So what this is showing here is today, we see across all of our customers, and we, again, as I mentioned, millions of purchase orders go in and out of SourceDay every year. We see about 52% of your purchase orders that you cut and issue through your ERP are changing. And those changes are date changes, pricing changes, quantity changes. And for the vast majority of you, these changes actually are being captured or are happening inside somebody's email, a buyer's email. And this can really create problems for you because, I mean, this day and age, we all want real-time information. We want our ERP update and accurate, the latest and greatest information. But most of this information that's coming from your suppliers or the communications between buyers and suppliers is in an email. And any buyer will tell you their inbox is probably the busiest inbox of the entire company. They have hundreds of emails that come in and out of their inbox every day. And it's up to them to sometimes get lucky to find that one email that's that gotcha email. We need to move this out, or we didn't receive your PO, or we can't make that delivery date. Whatever the case may be, it's buried in somebody's email and very difficult for buyers to take action on that on a real-time basis. And when you look at your business and you look at the ERP that you have, you make an investment in this ERP to help the organization, communicate, connect all the key stakeholders of your company so that everybody is driving towards the same outcome. We can all see the same information. We can see what's going on in production. We can see what's going on in inventory. We can communicate what's happening to our customers. But a real key stakeholder to all your businesses out there are your suppliers. And generally speaking, for most of you, suppliers are completely disconnected. The only communication they get typically are these emails that we're talking about that a lot of times are almost outdated as soon as you send them. Maybe they have a spreadsheet with an open order report or a past due report or whatever the case may be, but oftentimes the data is outdated almost immediately. And then it takes a couple of days, maybe a week, for the supplier to even respond back with a status. And things just move too quickly in today's world to have suppliers be disconnected. So for me, just as one of the founders of SourceDay, I used to run a manufacturing company. And this particular thing is exactly why we started the company in the first place. My buying team, we had 5 buyers, and because we needed, near-time, real-time updates on what's going on with our supply, our buyers were running around, essentially hair on fire, trying to get updates from all the suppliers because we weren't getting responses to the emails. We weren't getting open order report responses and status on late, past due items, which are the things that were really hurting us. So the buyers were blowing up suppliers, calling, frantically trying to do everything they could to get these updates so that we could feed the business and so that people could know what to do. It was a very chaotic for my company, and it probably is for you guys as well. You're probably always talking about supplier parts. When is that supplier going to deliver? Let me go get an update and a status on that. Why is this supplier late? Et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I could rinse and repeat those comments all day long. So what SourceDay is trying to do for your company is essentially provide a connective tissue between your ERP and your suppliers. And when SourceDay is in place, or products like SourceDay or solutions like SourceDay are in place, it allows you to start to set up a lot of standardized workflows, what leads to helping us build out automations, which helps us in today's day and age, helping you run some using some AI to help you with your supply chain issues. But it helps standardize that process. But more importantly, or probably most importantly, it connects your suppliers to your ERP on a real-time basis. So now, when you cut purchase orders in your ERP, instead of it sort of going into a black hole of an email, it's onto a platform that has everybody's eyes on it. Suppliers can see what's going on, buyers can see what's going on, and it really connects everybody in. I tend to call it sort of your wallet. You're out there spending money, cutting purchase orders. You need to have the status of that, not only because you're cutting that money, but that is feeding your production, that is feeding your schedule, and ultimately that's feeding, what you're telling your customer in terms of their delivery. So it's all connected. Everything is connected to sort of what's happening with your suppliers. So this is a more modern way for you to do business with your suppliers. And a lot of times we get categorized as a supplier portal, and certainly we hear that often, but I would tell you we're much more than that. And we're going to get into sort of what makes our solution different, because you're sitting out there today saying, we thought about doing a supplier portal before, or I know a little bit about SourceDay. Well, we want to deep dive and tell you sort of what our secret sauce is, what has made us help you be successful. Because for us, it's about making you successful. If you're successful, then we're successful. And we're going to get into the meat of that here in just a few minutes. Before I dive into the sort of best in class in terms of what we do with SourceDay and in terms of your suppliers, I want to talk about the best in class supplier portal for Infor. So we are officially an Infor partner. This is something that happened a couple of years ago. For those of you who are new to SourceDay, we've been in and around the Infor ecosystem for over 10 years. Again, green coat, been at every single conference that Infor probably has. But 2 years ago, we went into a partnership with Infor. And so today, like, for example, if you decide after this webinar that you would like to learn more about SourceDay and maybe even set up a demonstration for your team, that'll actually all be done through Infor. So Infor will actually work, you'll actually work with your Infor rep and us to make that happen, and all the purchasing that you do of SourceDay would actually happen through Infor. So we're very excited about this partnership. Infor has been a great partner for us, but many of you out there I know like working with Infor exclusively, and that's one of the main reasons why we did that, is because we really felt like we were better together with Infor than separate. So okay, so this is where I wanted to just discuss with you the differences between maybe what you're thinking about in terms of a supplier portal and what SourceDay brings to the table. The number one question that we get, I've been doing this for a long time. Darren already knows where I'm going with this comment. The number one question we get is, I really like we hear a lot, like, we really like the idea of using a solution like SourceDay, but we're really not sure if our suppliers will even do something like this. Here, we're a small manufacturer, our suppliers are quite large, or we're a large manufacturer, our suppliers are mom and pops, and we're just not really sure if we're going to be able to get the adoption. And it is a fair question. And let me address, this is where I like to address sort of the elephant in the room about that. We have been working with that and solving that problem for over 10 years. And so let me explain to you sort of what we do. What this slide is showing is when you cut purchase orders in your ERP, Infor ERP, those purchase orders will flow into SourceDay. Okay, so you're still cutting your purchase orders inside your ERP. That doesn't change. What changes is that you no longer have to be responsible for delivering those purchase orders to your supplier. That's where SourceDay clips in to the communication. We grab those purchase orders out of the ERP and deliver those purchase orders to your supplier. Now, the lowest common denominator, probably most of you out there, your team, your buying team, when they cut purchase orders today, they email those purchase orders to the supplier. SourceDay does the exact same thing. So we give the suppliers optionality. We give them the ability to choose on how they want to work with you and the SourceDay network. Email for us is the lowest common denominator. Obviously, all your suppliers today are using email. As long as they're comfortable using email, they can continue to use email and work within the SourceDay network. We also offer them the ability to log into a platform. This is where you get into the term supplier portal. We do have a platform access, and the difference between a branded email, an interactive email, where they would respond to the email itself inside the email versus logging into a platform, is they get a much more enriched experience. So where email is more of a one-to-one purchase order type experience, when they log into SourceDay, which is free for the suppliers, by the way, there's no cost to them, that's when they can come in and see everything. Live open order reports, live late due reports, communicate with you in bulk. They can see their supplier scorecard. They can create ASNs. They can suggest changes at bulk. So everything's sort of at their fingertips in bulk, and gives them a full 360 view of everything that's going on with your purchase orders. So for you and your company, you no longer have to send open order reports, send past due reports, make those phone calls about what's going on. SourceDay does all that for you. So once the purchase orders are inside the SourceDay application, we are distributing the purchase orders, as I mentioned, and also controlling all the communications. So we're doing all the follow-up for you. We're chasing late POs for you. We're doing all that to free up your buyers, because we kind of call it babysitting POs. You don't have to do that. It frees your buyers up to be much more strategic in the organization, solving really significant problems for you versus calling a supplier and saying, hey, when are you going to ship? That is all handled now in the SourceDay application, so it completely offloads that. One of the questions I get all the time is, hey, we have an ERP. We cut purchase orders in our ERP. That does the exact same thing SourceDay does. The answer to that is no. Actually, that's not true. SourceDay, think of SourceDay is once the PO is cut, we handle everything about managing your purchase orders once it's outside the ERP. Once it's left the ERP and now with your supplier, we take over managing that to ensure that your parts are delivered on time, that your suppliers are communicating regularly, and that you have all that status. Furthermore, big thing here, going back to the first thing we sort of talked about, is your ERP needs up-to-date and accurate information. For most of you, we call it the swivel chair. You look over at your email, you find an email where your supplier has made a change, then you swivel over to your ERP and you make the change. SourceDay does all that for you. We're capturing date changes, pricing changes, quantity changes, surface those up for you to approve as a buyer. So I approve these changes, and then SourceDay automatically updates the ERP for you. It can be done individually or in bulk. So those are some really big, significant things that SourceDay is doing for you to help keep your business on a real-time basis with your suppliers. Another thing I just want to mention on this particular slide is additional optionality, we'll call it, for suppliers, is we do handle EDI. So from some of you out there, you probably have dealt with EDI before, maybe with your customers. We see a lot of Infor customers are using EDI with their customers, but there are some cases maybe where you need to do EDI with your suppliers. That is certainly supported in the SourceDay application, and also APIs. Some very large distributors that are in the SourceDay network prefer API access, and we obviously do support that as well. But the vast majority of suppliers in the SourceDay network are either doing email like they've always done, or they're logging into the SourceDay platform. So this is sort of this first step that we have in terms of making you successful. We give your suppliers options, so suppliers don't typically have the pushback of, I'm not going to use something like this. As long as they're using email, they will. The other thing I'll mention before I leave this slide is we are here to help you be successful. So not only is it a technology solution, but also it's a services solution as well. And it's included with the SourceDay application is we will train, support, and help your suppliers become successful in the SourceDay network. So an example would be, let's say they are logging into the SourceDay platform and they forget their password, right? If that happens, they're not going to come to you or your IT department to reset their password or get help. They come to SourceDay. We offload that responsibility to us, so we take care of all those suppliers. And I'm proud to say today that there is over 100,000 supplier nodes in the SourceDay application within the SourceDay world. So we have hundreds of thousands of suppliers that are networked into the SourceDay application one way or another. And so that is something that we're really proud of, that we've grown out all over the years. All right. So, Darren, I don't know if there's any questions.
Actually, not Clint. I've been trying to give some updates along the way. You just mentioned the 100,000 supplier users, supplier nodes interacting through SourceDay. I also made a note, so anybody on here, we do have a pre-built connector with XA that is being used by some of our customers today. So everything Clint has talked about is actually live and in production with other XA customers.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, please keep the questions coming. Yeah, so a little background on SourceDay. We started our practice with CSI, with Infor, but we have grown that to pretty much all of their manufacturing ERPs over the course of 10 years. So XA is one that we've been supporting now for several years, and super excited about the XA community. All right, let me all right, so let me refresh this guy. One of the things we wanted to show you, make sure you can see. Okay, all right, guys, having a hard time to see. Okay, so I do want to show you the actual application. Now, really, Darren is probably way more qualified to do this, so you guys can make fun of me later, but I just wanted to just walk you through, because I didn't want to take up the entire hour, but I do want to give you a sense for what it looks like in the SourceDay application. So first and foremost, let's go back to your ERP. In XA, you're still going to use those requirements. Whatever's driving your purchase order creation stays the same. Your purchase orders are still going to be created in XA. You're still going to receive everything in XA. That all stays exactly the same. The difference is, as I mentioned earlier, is once you cut the PO, SourceDay intercepts the purchase orders, and we will be responsible for delivering the purchase orders and helping stay on top of those suppliers. So they get it. So what you're seeing here is a view within the SourceDay application. And right out of the gate, you can start to see, if you're familiar with purchase orders in your ERP, that you're seeing, hey, we've got the supplier name, PO lines, release, item number, due dates, all the things that are pretty much always on your PO. We're bringing that data over. Think of it as like we're almost creating a digital footprint of your PDF purchase order and putting it inside the application. Once it's in the application, then we are able to help you manage the first line of defense for any businesses. We need to make sure these purchase orders get acknowledged. So when they come into the SourceDay application, the first thing that we do is flag them as, hey, these are unacknowledged POs. And so your suppliers will get a notification either in an email, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a second, or in just some sort of alert that says you have no new purchase orders, so we need you to come into the application or in an email and respond to those purchase orders so that we know that it is in fact acknowledged. And Darren, I think
and you're good, Clint. If you just scroll down on the left-hand side where it says purchase orders, you'll be able to show the life cycle of the PO. Just scroll down, and you'll see pending.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll add on to what Clint was talking about. So when you look at the PO life cycle here and you see pending in progress, behind the scenes we have what we define as our agents. We have different agents that do certain automation, certain outreach. So we have a PO chasing agent. So if a PO is unacknowledged, SourceDay will automatically use that agent to chase the supplier for acknowledgments. If there's something that needs to be expedited, or there's orders that are coming due soon, our AI agents will chase those suppliers for updates, for advanced ship notifications, for any changes that are happening. So all the things that people are doing today in terms of expediting follow-ups, think about that SourceDay agent taking over. So, and you're perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Darren. Yeah, and feel free to chime in here. You obviously do this every day, not me. So those agents are really what we're trying to do for you as an organization, is helping you understand what the risks are to your business. Like if you cut 100 purchase orders today, or 100 purchase orders this week, we said 52% of those are going to change, right? So we already know like over 50% of those purchase orders are going to change. But which of those are also going to be a problem for you? And so that's where we get in this area of risk. And you can see here, we have this notion of a lead time risk. So if you cut a purchase order, our AI is going to actually look at it and compare it to what historically we see as delivery times. And if we think that it's going to be a lead time risk, we flag that to you. We flag it to you and also give you some actionable items to take so that you can address it for future issues. So to me, as a buyer or a manufacturer, you don't want to treat every purchase order the same. I call them like happy path POs. Happy path POs, I probably don't really want to spend much time on it. If I cut a PO, the supplier acknowledges the PO, there are no changes to the PO, that's great. That's happy path. But if I send over a purchase order and it hasn't been acknowledged, or the supplier makes a change, or it has a lead time risk, or there's some risk associated with it based on historical data in our AI practice, please flag that. So those are some of the things that we're doing automatically real time. So lead time is one of the risks. Proposed changes. Again, this is something where we've talked about it. A supplier has come in, has reviewed this purchase order, and has actually asked for these changes. So they want to move the date from 10/31 to 12/31. They want to move the price from $1.50 to $1.75. So with a click of a button, I can accept these changes, number one. Number two, SourceDay will automatically update XA for me, my ERP, through the integration. So it's a real-time update the ERP right away. Darren, anything you want to say on that?
Nope. And I think the only other thing is we will chase the supplier. So again, if it is happy path, it's no status, especially the longer the lead time an item is. Maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 2 weeks before that due date or delivery date that SourceDay will ask the supplier for an update. The other thing embedded back behind this is we're showing things at the date, the quantity level. We also recently released what's called milestone tracking. So a lot of times if you're using outside processing or you have somebody that's making a subcomponent for you or they're doing some type of kitting, you might want to ask where they are in the status of that actual manufacturing of that part, that component. So you know that if they haven't, if they're not 50% done with the manufacturing side of it, that due date might not be able to be met. So there's a lot of other things that we can do to help you get visibility into the order and the life cycle of the order other than just date cut, date delivered. There's a lot of stuff that happens in between that we help with.
Yeah, exactly. So again, we are not showing you, we're showing you 10% of what SourceDay is about, just trying to give you a taste. Many of you probably have not seen SourceDay at all, so we just wanted to give you a flavor for it. Part of your working with suppliers, especially for those of you who are ISO, supplier scorecards has always been a thing. The company I ran, we were ISO company. Supplier scorecards were always a thing. We built that into the SourceDay application. So these are parameters that you set that are important to you. And then once those are done, then SourceDay will actually go out and start scoring your suppliers for you. And so you can see things like reliability score, responsiveness, on-time percentage. I mean, these are metrics that most of our customers ask about. You can dive deeper into specific vendors if you want to dive into it. Lots of metrics around on-time delivery, number of POs, due date change, like all kinds of information that you can just keep clicking into, which is great if you're doing, let's say, a quarterly business review with a supplier. You're going to have them in, and you're scrambling to figure out their scorecard, doing a bunch of spreadsheets. SourceDay gives it right here at your fingertips, and it's doing it on a real-time basis, which I know many of you definitely do like.
Yeah, I'll add one other thing there. So if you want to, you can also create a setting or flip the setting to allow the supplier to see their scorecard as well. So they can see their scorecard in real time if you want to have them, have that access. The other thing is, so Clint's looking at this at the supplier level. You'll notice up along the top, we have our PO hub, our shipment hub, supplier hub. There's also something called the item hub. The item hub does an analysis at the item supplier level. So it gives you the ability to start seeing the performance of an item by that supplier. So again, mixing the scorecard, most of the time you're not buying one part, one material from a supplier, you're buying multiple. So we want to be able to give you that very granular level of detail of, is it a certain part that has a lead time issue or a price issue to it that's impacting this overall supplier. So there's a lot we can do to give you more information to make better decisions on, is it an update that we need to make inside of XA because our lead time is actually wrong. So every time we cut a PO, our due date's already inaccurate. So the goal is more information, better decisions you can make, the better that MRP, the better that everything else in your ERP starts to operate more efficiently, more effectively.
Yeah, perfect. So I promised I'd keep it to only 30 minutes. So I just want to click on automation here. This is somewhat new for us, but very exciting. And for those of you who, there's so many examples that we could use, but this is where SourceDay, through its intelligent PO change agents, so where our agents are looking at this and monitor this. This allows us to see things that you are doing on a regular basis and let you set up automations to automatically do that for you. So an example would be, I'm sure Darren's going to probably provide better ones, but example would be, let's say every time this particular supplier communicates with you, they push the date out by 1 or 2 days, and every single time that happens, you've accepted the change. We track that, and as we start to see a trend, we'll surface that up and say, every time this happens, this has been your response. Do you just want to set up an automated workflow? And that will automatically do that for you and never have to bring that to your attention again. And so you set that up, and now that's something automated. So again, the whole idea with SourceDay is the things that are happy path, that can be automated, that are good to go. We're not necessarily thinking those are incredibly important to service. The manage by exception, the problems, the risk, the lead times, the late deliveries, the POs that got lost, that fell through the cracks. Those are the ones that we want to make sure that you're aware of, that we're driving those to you to take action, so you don't have those misses in production and those misses to your customer that are supply chain related, which I know many of you probably suffer from that today. Darren, anything you'd like to say on the automation stuff?
Yeah, the one thing is, a lot of people look at this and they're like, I don't know what to automate. Yeah, it sounds good to automate things, but I have no idea what is a good automation rule, what's a good tolerance to have this set. I will say that SourceDay will learn the behavior of the buyers and the purchasing team, or expediters, whoever is using SourceDay, that, let's say, over the course of the next 6 months to a year, if somebody is always clicking the accept button for a date range that is in 3 days within the due date, as Clint mentioned, why don't we just automate that rule? So SourceDay's intelligence engine, which is backed by machine learning and artificial intelligence, will make those suggestions, as well as build the rule set automatically for you without you having to do that. So the goal here is not having to think, but understanding the behavior of the team and the organization to surface those rules. And then you can also test those rules before you put them into production. So just more intelligence being built into the platform. So we're using your data, your behavior to make those decision points.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Darren. Okay, I'm going to stop there, because probably for most of you, certainly if this is the first time that you've seen SourceDay, there's no sense in digging in any further than that. If this is something that's interesting to you, and if I were talking to you in person, like at our booth, at Empower, I'd say, do you have supply chain issues? Are your suppliers running behind? Are purchase orders getting lost? Are POs getting lost and parts not coming in on time? Suppliers are not communicating. If those things are all yes, and those things are impacting maybe production, maybe impacting your business in any way, shape, or form, then it's probably worth a conversation with us. I'm not saying we can solve it, but we do solve a lot of problems for a lot of customers that probably are very similar to you. So we would love to at least have that conversation. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, my email address is here. You can also reach out to TriMin, your rep at TriMin, and set up a call with them, and we'll obviously be looped in. But be happy to have a conversation with you and see if exploring SourceDay makes any sense for you. So with that, Sarah, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Clint. Thanks, Darren. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. I also put my email in the chat. So if you have any follow-up questions, or as Clint mentioned before, if you're interested in setting up an additional conversation, please feel free to reach out to myself or Clint or Darren as well. But I think we'll let everyone on with the rest of their day, but appreciate your guys' time today.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Cheers.
Right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.